Hi, today I will show you how to deploy NGINX Ingress controller for n8n, and I will explain you why in a moment. So here there is my short what is NGINX Ingress controller in Kubernetes, and I really recommend to watch it. Also, what is an ingress in Kubernetes, what is NodePort, and what are port and target port. And I really recommend to watch it before you will proceed with the tutorial, because this is crucial part and they are really short, and thanks to this you will be able to understand the whole idea. By the way, if you will go to my website, there are also articles about it and you can read it if you will not understand these short videos, because I'm speaking there very quickly. So if I will scroll down, you can observe there is a question. I have deployed my K8s cluster on bare metal, and I have deployed NGINX Ingress controller inside the cluster. The issue I'm facing, in example, the domain that I have pointed the master node, when I URL the domain, I get desired result, but on the browser I got 404. Do you have any idea how can I fix the issue? And I provided two answers, but I just decided that I will record a video tutorial about this to show you how you can implement everything. And by the way, I will try to recreate a 404 error, and I will show you how to quickly fix it. So let's begin. Go to the command line, and now it is good to remind you the previous tutorial where I was explaining how to deploy n8n in Kubernetes K3s, and also I will go back to this browser. This is this video, this one where my mouse is, where I highlighted it. Okay, so there is an explanation how to deploy n8n in Kubernetes. Okay, let's go back, and now I will show you the directory that you just cloned using Git. So cd n8n-k3s, and here is the whole implementation for n8n. These YAML files are files that you can use to deploy n8n in Kubernetes. But you can also notice that there is ingress directory inside this. So if I will go here, there is an ingress directory that contains three files: ingress n8n class, n8n ingress, and service for ingress n8n. And now I'm going to tell you more about this, and you would like to ask me, okay, how to implement it. But before I will show you how to implement it, because implementation is quite easy, I would like to tell more about it. So now I'm deploying n8n along with an NGINX Ingress controller. The confusion seems to be around the necessity of having two different services, because I have a service n8n that is currently running, that was deployed with n8n. So if I will use command kubectl get svc and -n8n, it will display two services, and it will be good to display only the service n8n service, just because we will focus only on this one service. And this is my n8n service, and you can see it is using a NodePort 31023. So we can connect directly to n8n using the IP address of my master node where the n8n is deployed, or any IP address of the node that is connected to this cluster, and the NodePort, and it will work. And why? Because of iptables rules, and they are configured the way that it doesn't matter which IP address of the node you will use, it will connect you with the service. This is how it is working, and it is implemented in Kubernetes. But I recommend to use IP address of the master node because there is a rare situation when you get rid of the master node, right? In most cases, you can get rid of the slave node, a worker, and you can take everything from this worker node, place it on another worker node, and then you can get rid and you can remove this faulty node. For example, there is some problem with hardware and you have to replace it if you are implementing it using a bare metal. Okay, so that is why I really recommend to use a master node IP address. So this is my master node, kubectl, and I will show you get nodes, and here we go. So because CM4 is my master node, so let's check the host name dash capital I, the IP address, and the first IP address is the IP address of this machine. So I can use it like this, and I can copy it here, and I will try to type this in my browser this way. So I will use this IP address and this port, this node port. Okay, so now I have the whole URL, so I can highlight it, Ctrl+Shift+C, and I will go to browser, and I will try to connect it in the next tab. Okay, here we go, and now my n8n should start, and it is working. So I'll try to log in there, and you should see that it is connecting, logging, and n8n is working fine. Okay, so I will log out because I don't need it here. Okay, and now I will go back to the command line, and well, fine, but now you would like to use a domain, and if you want to use a domain, then you need to modify it a little bit, and you need to create ingress controller, service for this ingress controller, and a class. And now I'm going to explain why you need this. So we will deploy it, but before I would like to clarify roles and why both services are needed. So n8n service is a service that is responsible for exposing the n8n application pods. So if we will display the pod, I mean kubectl get pods, and in namespace n8n we have two pods. One pod is for Postgres, and there is a separate service for Postgres, but we don't care about this. And the second pod is for n8n application. Okay, so this service, n8n service, is responsible for exposing the n8n application pods inside the Kubernetes cluster. And this service, I'm talking about this, the one that I highlighted now, it acts as an internal load balancer that directs traffic to your n8n pod, in this case, right, to this one. So this n8n service is working like a load balancer, and the traffic, it directs the traffic from the service to this pod, right? Okay. Since it's a NodePort service, I'm talking about still, you can see this is a NodePort, you can see the type, right? It also makes the application accessible from outside the cluster, and I presented it because we were able to access this n8n in the browser, but through a specific port on the node. So we can access it using a browser, using the IP address, but we need to also specify the port, the node port. And we were using 31,023, right? This one. Okay. And the next thing is, I will list it. the NGINX Ingress n8n service. We are talking about this file, and I will display it. Cut. Here we go. And this service that we will implement in a moment is associated with the NGINX Ingress controller, with this n8n ingress file that will be implemented in a moment. Its primary role, this service, is to expose the ingress controller itself to the outside world. This is different from n8n service. So this service is different than this one. Okay. And why it is different? Because it is not exposing your application directly, as the n8n service is doing, right? Instead, it is exposing the ingress controller, which then manages and routes external traffic to your internal services, like n8n service, based on the ingress rules you define. And I'm going to show you, because if I will now display this n8n ingress that I'm going to implement in a moment, you can see it exposing the ingress controller, right? So, and this is connecting with n8n service that is already implemented. So here is why both are needed. The n8n service, this one, right, makes your n8n application accessible within the Kubernetes cluster and potentially directly from outside the cluster. Though the latter is not typically recommended for production environments. This is really important. The NGINX Ingress n8n service, I'm talking about this, right? This service that you can see, exposes the NGINX Ingress controller. When external traffic hits this service, it's the ingress controller that decides where to route this traffic based on your ingress rules. So, based on the n8n ingress file that you can see here below. Right? And in this case, it routes traffic to n8n service. So thanks to this, you can decide that you can modify it, and then you can decide that it will route the traffic to another service. So actually, it can be redesigned and it can direct to another service. So in summary, the n8n service, the one here, is for internal load balancing and potential direct external access to n8n, while NGINX Ingress n8n service, this one, right, is for external access to the ingress controller, which then intelligently routes traffic to internal services like n8n service. This separation allows more sophisticated routing rules, better security, and easier management of ingress traffic in a Kubernetes environment. So now it is good to understand how everything is working, but before I will proceed, I would like to show you one thing according to the iptables, and I clear the screen. And now I will use this command to display the specific iptables rules that is responsible for the traffic. And we need to break down the components and their roles in managing the network traffic for your or mine Kubernetes setup, focusing on iptables and the ingress controller and the service NodePort range. Without this, you will not be able to understand how everything is working. So this iptables entry for Kubernetes service, you can see this one, the kube services, right? It's a part of the mechanism Kubernetes uses to manage network traffic to services. This rule is auto-generated by Kubernetes during the installation and is responsible for directing traffic to the correct services within the cluster based on their type and configuration. Fine. And now, before I will proceed, I will try to explain the last file, because I provided you explanation what is n8n ingress and what is NGINX ingress n8n service, but you can see there is also ingress n8n class. And this actually these two files, this n8n ingress and ingress class, right? These two files define an ingress resource and an ingress class, respectively. I mean, the ingress class, and I will display it, it contains the entry NGINX cat ingress n8n class. So we have ingress class and name NGINX tells Kubernetes which ingress controller should handle the ingress resources. And the ingress, so n8n ingress, like that, right, defines how the traffic should be routed to your service. In this case, n8n service. So it defines it. Fine. So what is the traffic flow? External traffic from the outside, and I will try to go to browser, and let's say that you're typing this IP address and this NodePort to get into the directly to the service. But if you will define another port for NGINX ingress controller, and it will be a default port 5678, because this is really interesting. Thanks ingress controller and service created separately for n8n, we can change the port and we can set the default port here, and also we can get rid of this port. I mean, basically it is working with port and without this port, and I will show you this in a moment. And if I will use this port, the traffic flows works that the way that external traffic reaches the Kubernetes node on a specific port defined by your NodePort service, and this is defined in the NGINX ingress n8n service that I'm going to present in a moment. Here we go, and cut now NGINX ingress n8n service, and here we have a port 5678. I mean NodePort. This is very crucial. And then the iptables rules that I presented here above directs this traffic to the NGINX ingress controller based on the NodePort mapping. And in the next step, the NGINX ingress controller based on the ingress rules, n8n ingress, routes the traffic to the appropriate service inside the cluster. In our case, it's n8n. So how it goes? External traffic reaches the Kubernetes node. So, yeah, so this is it. So, I mean, the traffic. Let's do this from our side. Traffic is something like when you type, type the URL in the browser, right? This generates the traffic, where it goes. So it goes to the IP address and a node, maybe this way, node port, like this, right? And it goes there. I mean, node port should be capital N. So it goes this way, and a node port. Then how it behaves. Okay, so it reaches the Kubernetes node on a specific port. So thanks to this, it reaches master node on a specific port, on a node port. And so the node port in this case is 5678, for example, right? We are talking when we are using NGINX Ingress Controller. Okay. That's it. Then we have something like iptables rule, right? That I presented above. And it's called kube services, right? This one. Fine. So it goes to iptables, and these iptables directs traffic. So iptable directs traffic where? To the NGINX Ingress controller, right? But for n8n in this case, because it was created, it will be created in a moment for n8n based on this. And this NGINX Ingress controller directs the traffic to an n8n service that is created already when the n8n was deployed in the cluster. Right? This is it. So you can see what is going on here. So we have this ingress, right? And what we have here? We have a port number 80. And why? Because n8n, this service, is working on a port 80. But this one, actually, the traffic goes where? So I will go back here, type the URL, and what is going on here? In this case, it goes to IP address and NodePort. So actually here, you are using this and iptables service. What is going on? I mean, iptables direct traffic based. It should be based on service created for NGINX Ingress controller for n8n. This is the way how it works. And then because this service here, it says, okay, we're using NodePort 5678. So if you hit this NodePort 5678, so Kubernetes recognize, okay, this is NGINX Ingress n8n service. Okay, where I should call. Okay, port 80 is defined, and okay, I need to call NGINX Ingress n8n, because this is this one. Okay, so I need to connect with the NGINX Ingress controller for n8n, and what NGINX n8n Ingress is saying. Okay, where I need to connect to. Okay, I need to connect to n8n service in a namespace n8n. In this case, you can see, you need to understand that looks at the namespaces. The ingress is defined in namespace n8n because it has to be in the same namespace where the service is located. So ingress always need to be in the same namespace where your service is located. And service for ingress should be in namespace ingress and NGINX in this case. The name is, the pattern is quite good. Ingress NGINX says, okay, this is a namespace where all my services for all my ingress controllers are located. So this is the difference. And okay, so this NGINX, this service says, okay, someone called the IP and this node port. Okay, I'm directly connecting to the ingress located in n8n. Okay, fine. And because this is the way how it is done and how it is configured. And okay, I have n8n ingress. Okay, nice. I have something like where I should call. So you can see NGINX is calling this n8n service in a namespace n8n using a port 80. So everything is not encrypted, goes with probably plain text, I mean open traffic. There is no SSL, so internally inside the cluster it is fine. You can encrypt the traffic, but only when it is needed. Okay, so NGINX is connecting with this service, and you can see it goes here to n8n service, and n8n service response. It says that okay, I have this pod in n8n namespace, and inside this pod there is a container, and on this container I have an application that is listening on port 5678, and here we go. This is your application. This is how everything is working. Nice. So in summary, the iptables rule is indeed sufficient to ensure that traffic reaching the Kubernetes node on the specified NodePort is correctly redirected to the NGINX Ingress controller. From there, the Ingress controller takes over to route the traffic according to the Ingress rules you have defined. This setup provides a flexible and efficient way to manage traffic routing in your Kubernetes environment. Okay, so now it's time, Ctrl+C, to implement everything. So, kubectl apply -f and dot. And you can apply it this way. So you can pick up all the files with YAML or YAML extension inside this ingress directory. But if you are using Ansible playbook, then instead you need to specify all files one by one. And this is much better and more secure approach, just because this way you're sure that you're implementing only these files that you really want to. So one more time, kubectl apply, then -f, and we will use our ingress n8n class space. One more time, -f n8n ingress, and one more time -f NGINX ingress n8n service. And I will hit it, and you can see the error. The service NGINX ingress n8n is invalid, and you can see provided port is not in the valid range. The range of valid port is 30,000 and 32,767. So actually this range is default for Kubernetes. And now sometimes it is needed that you want to, it is needed to redefine this node range, node port range. Should I recommend it? In some cases, well, it is needed. Sometimes you need ports that are below 30,000. Okay, so how to modify it? Quite easy. I will clear the screen now. The next session will be created. So I will open it one more time, duplicate it, just because it will be easier for me to explain everything here. And here I will just now try to deploy it once again, and I will leave it as it is. And I will go back here. So sudo systemctl status k3s service, and in the line loaded colon you can see there is a path to the file etc systemd system k3s service, exactly this one. So now what you need to do, hit Q on your keyboard, highlight it and copy it this way, and use the command sudo vim or another editor, nano, to edit this service. Here we go. And in this section, exec_stat, you can see I have some, disabled and traffic service load balancer. This is because when I was implementing K3s, I disabled the load balancer and traffic. And that is why we have this entry. Of course, you can add it manually like this. So I will here create a new entry. So below server, I will open a new line now single quotes, and now dash dash, and I need to provide something like service NodePort range. So let's do this. Call it service dash node dash port dash and range, right? Service NodePort range equals, and now you need to provide a new range. So it will be 5678 dash 32767. So we will set it this way, and now I will save it. And now what you need to do, you need to restart the daemon. So sudo systemctl restart. No, sorry, daemon reload. Daemon reload. So you need to restart the daemon, and daemon reload is doing it. Because every time when you modify a service, you need to reload the daemon. This is it. Okay, daemon is reloaded, and now the next step is to restart the ktrace service. So I will use it this way, and instead of status, I will just restart command, and it should restart the ktrace service. And after that, when I will go back to the previous session, you should see that now the service will be implemented. Here we go, apply one more time, and you can see service NGINX Ingress n8n is created. So let's display these services. So kubectl get svc, but I will use all namespaces. Just to show you that I have NGINX Ingress n8n, Postgres service, n8n service, and all of these. So I displayed all the services in all namespaces, but I would like to be more specific. So instead of this, I will use namespace n8n. So this is what was previously when n8n was deployed without NGINX Ingress controller, and now we will display in Ingress NGINX namespace, and here we have a service NGINX Ingress n8n that is created. And now it would be good to display Ingress in all the namespaces like this, and you can see only one currently is created for n8n in a namespace n8n. This is crucial. n8n Ingress is created for n8n. Well, I was mentioned it. I mentioned about it, and yeah. And now you will ask me, okay, fine. You have n8 Ingress, you have NGINX Ingress n8n service, and you have a NodePort 5678. Can I connect using 5678 port? And I can check it. So let's go to browser and open it here, and instead I can now hit 5678, and you can see it's opening. So it is working just like a charm. Okay, lovely. And the next step is to use a domain instead of what? IP address, correct. And how to implement it? Well, this is also something that you need to understand how to make it. So how to use a domain instead of IP address? Well, it is something that you need to understand. So this is a next step that it will be long. For example, you can use a Cloudflare, OVH, or something else. I mean a domain registrar, right? So you need a domain. So you have to register a domain, and if you don't already have one, you will need to register it with a domain registrar. So you have to choose a name that suits your service or organization. Actually, it can be any domain. Then you need to set up DNS records, and I will not show you how to do this because there are very good tutorials on Cloudflare, for example, how to set up DNS records, and you need 2 records actually, in most cases. A record, so you have to create an a record in your DNS configuration that points your domain to the external IP address of your Kubernetes cluster. And warning, if your cluster is on a cloud platform, this would be the external IP of your load balancer. If it is on premises or in a local setup, this would be the external IP of your node. So in most cases it will be the IP address of master node. And the second record, it's a CNAME record. So if you want to use a subdomain like, I don't know, n8n.example.com, so everything before example.com is a subdomain, awx.example.com, aws.example.com, something like this. So these subdomains, you need to create a CNAME record that points to your main domain. And I will not explain how to do it because it is your job to do this and search how to make it work. Maybe one day I will show you how I implemented a domain in Cloudflare. And the next step, if you want to use a domain instead of IP address, so we will go back to the command line. The next step is to modify the ingress for n8n in our case, of course, and I will show you how to do this. So yeah, I will list it once again, and maybe I will clear the screen and okay, this one. So we have n8n ingress, cut it. Okay, right? So what we have here, we have something like this, and you're wondering what we have to do with this file. Well, what you have to do, you need to provide a host name into this file. So we need to edit it, so vim n8n ingress, and here you need to do one simple thing, and after rules you need to provide something like this, and I will open a new line and I will provide something like host like this column, but you need to remember about tabulators, so I will do this, and it will be, for example, n8n example.com, or yeah, why not, but eventually it can be something else, n8n local, for example, right? Why not? And now I made one error, especially because I want to recreate 404 error, and then I will show you how to change it and how to fix the problem, because the user probably has the problem when she or he was implementing the ingress controller using a domain. Okay, so I changed it. Now what? Now you have to apply this file. So kubectl, apply, then -f, and of course n8n ingress, because now we need to implement only this one. Okay, configured. Fine. The next step is to have a DNS. So in company or at home, you need a DNS server, and you need a DNS entry for this machine. Okay, host name -I. I will use this IP address. And now what? I will go back to browser and I will open my Adguard Home. Of course, you can use something like phole also, and it will work. So let's open the Adguard Home. Here we go. Okay, open it, log in there, just like that, and I need something like login and password. I'm logged in, go to filters, DNS rewrites, and now add a DNS rewrite. And I will use this IP address, and I will use something like n8n.local. Why not? Save it. Okay, fine. Can I use it? I can try. So let's open it, and remember that we're still using the HTTP instead of HTTPS, because all the traffic goes through the HTTP. So HTTP, just like that, and provide this n8n log. 4 or 4 not found. So I have now exactly the same error like the user mentioned here in this video. Right? I have pointed the master node. When I see URL the domain, I get this error result, but on browser I got 404, for example. So yeah, you need to have a proper configuration. So I will show you. The error is quite simple, and I will go back to command line, and now I will edit one more time my ingress, and here what you have to do, you have to delete this like that, do this. It should work like this way. So what I did, I deleted only one symbol, right? So I deleted the dash. Okay, save it, implement it one more time, wait a little bit, go to browser, and try to refresh it. That's it. It's worked like a charm. n8n is loading. And what? Without any port. Can I use a port? Yes, I can. I can use it like this, 5678. It will also work. But what is most funny, because the domain is defined here in this file, right? You don't have to use the port, right? The port is defined here, and the NodePort for the service, so Vim NGINX service 5678. But in fact, you are connecting directly to this NGINX Ingress controller. So actually, you don't need this NodePort defined in a service, but you need to leave it as it is. And by default, it will be connecting. So this is how it works. So thanks to this, we achieved our goal. And now you will ask me, okay, fine, nice, but I have a HTTP. I would like to have a HTTPS. And okay, there are two approaches. One is to redeploy everything using 443 port and SSL certificates inside the Kubernetes cluster. And yes, it's doable, but I'm not going to present it. Instead, I will present something else. So I'll close it, and I will leave this n8n local just because I can. I'll sign out here from this, and instead I will log into NGINX Proxy Manager. And NGINX Proxy Manager actually is a Docker, and I have a machine where I'm running a portainer, and I just deployed it using a portainer. It's quite easy. And what you need to do, you need to of course buy a domain, right? And in this case, I even didn't buy a domain. I just did n8n.local domain in my DNS, and you can see it's working. But if you would like to have your own domain with SSL, you need to buy one, some cheap one from any DNS registrar. Okay, let's log into the Proxy Manager here. Here we go, perform auto type from a password manager, and now what is important. So, for example, you're bought a domain somewhere, then you configure the domain to, you change the NS1 and NS2, this NS to Cloudflare, for example. This is really convenient because the traffic goes to your domain registrar, then it goes to Cloudflare. Cloudflare protects you, and fine. Add SSL certificate, choose let's encrypt, add domains like I did. For example, it will be sysadmin.homes because this is the domain I bought, click from the drop-down list on it, and one more time star.sysadmin.homes. Why? Because this is a wildcard. So I can use subdomains because I have not only record A, but also record CNAME configured on Cloudflare. Fine. Then I use a DNS challenge. For example, Cloudflare. You can use duckDNS if you want to. You can see that duckDNS, your duckDNS token, or in Cloudflare case also the token. So you need to get rid of this random token. Go to your Cloudflare account and there read the documentation how to generate API token for your account, and after that you need to paste the token here. And it is working the way that this one is connecting using your token to your profile in Cloudflare, and it's checking, okay, in fact you're using this domain because this domain is added to Cloudflare account. So yes, it's confirmed that the domain belongs to you, and thanks this I can add it here. Fine. Propagation seconds, by default 120, it can be 180 or something like this. I recommend 120, it should be enough. Anyway, sometimes if it doesn't work and it displays the error, just increase the propagation seconds to, for example, 360 or something like this. That's it. And of course, you need to agree the Let's Encrypt terms of service. I will cancel it because I already did it. And after that, you can see I have to sysadmin root domain, sysadmin.homes, and a wildcard star.sysadmin.homes. Fine. And something like this, and I have host. Go to proxy host, and I have here an n8n. How did it configured? I will edit it. So of course you can add a proxy host, but I will edit it to show you because it's almost the same. Edit. And then you need to type. You need to type something like, instead of star, a name of subdomain. In my case, it's just n8n, sysadmin.homes. HTTP, because I'm still using AT port, because I didn't configure SSL inside the Kubernetes. The default port for n8n 5678. The IP address of my master node, because I'm using the address of my local node in my local network. This is what I already mentioned. And also, you ignore custom location and advanced tabs because it doesn't matter. And in SSL, from the drop-down list, you select the domain that you configured previously that I was presenting. So you have to select it, force SSL, HTTP2 support, save it, just like that. Then you can click just like that, and it will open. But I don't understand why it should work. So I will try to go to Adguard Home. I will get rid of the local domain. Probably there might be some kind of problem because of this. I'm not quite sure. Okay, go to filter necessary rights and get rid of this entry from here. Sign out. Close it, and one more time, check this, n8n sysadmin.homes, edit, HTTP, IP address 5678, SSL, okay, save it, try one more time. Why it doesn't work? This is quite interesting. I can try to do two things. First of all, I will go back one more time to Adguard Home. So just give me this one. And I will clear the cache for Adguard Home. Okay, because it may be, it can be related to this. So settings, then DNS settings, and scroll down. And here is the clear the cache. Okay. And then also in general settings, you can clear query logs and also clear statistics. For me, it doesn't matter. Okay, sign out. Now the next thing is to refresh it. and eventually you can try to clear the cache of the browser and try to one more time to open this. Why? I don't know why it doesn't work. And someone knows, and I will tell you why. I will tell you why it doesn't work. Just because, yeah, indeed, you need to go to the command line and you need to redefine the domain. So you need to edit not the service but ingress, and you need to change the domain n8n.local and like that, n8n sysadmin.homes this way, and we can save it. Of course, clearing the cache is fine, but then you need to redeploy it. Configured, go back to browser, and one more time we can check n8n. Here we go, it was here. Now it will work. Why? Because this URL is defined inside the NGINX controller. But there is one more trick that is funny. If you will go back to command line and we'll re-edit the file and we'll get rid of this, and then you will do this. If I remember correctly, it should be this way. Under the rules, like that. Okay, this way. Then save it like that and redeploy it once again, and then go back to browser and it will also work, and I can even clear the cache for you. So we'll clear it. Okay, and in a time I will try to run n8n one more time, and now it is working without specifying the domain inside the NGINX Ingress controller. But this is only when you are using NGINX, and there's something that is good, because in this NGINX Proxy Manager you can specify the port. And if you're using a DNS, sometimes you were able to see that in Adguard Home you cannot specify the NodePort. So in case when you cannot specify the port, you have to re-edit the NGINX and provide the hosts there manually and redeploy it. And if you have something like NGINX Proxy Manager or some DNS server that allows you to provide a NodePort, then you're lucky because you don't have to define it. But I really recommend it to do this way, just by proper re-edit the file, get rid of this like that, host like that, and then provide the host name, but and then sysadmin.homes like that, but here it has to be something like this, and then this way. So it must be provided this way, because this way it will work. So rules like this, dash host and HTTP. So we are adding it, and HTTP is without the dash. And now save it, apply, and it's configured, and this way is much more secure, because technically this you can define one NGINX Ingress controller per service. So you're creating the class will be the same. I mean, the class, if you will add the class once and you are using NGINX Ingress controller that I'm using when I'm deploying every version of K3s and every tutorial I have on my website, I deploy NGINX Ingress controller. And that is why I have this class. So cut this ingress. So yeah, so you're adding this only once, but then you need two files: ingress file and service file for ingress. And for each service, for example, I don't know, you are implementing AWX, right? To be able to run Ansible playbooks from AWX. And you have this AWX running inside the pod, inside the container, and it is using some NodePort, so you're specifying it, and then you're creating only two files. So you can use my files, copy them to another files. So what you have to do, you need to just use cp command and copy one ingress and one service, modify it according to the service you deployed in your pod to point to the proper service, because this ingress, right? This is the class, so this is fine, but this ingress is pointing to n8n service. So if you will deploy, for example, AWX service, it has to point to this AWX service, because you need to tell the ingress controller which service you want to connect to. That's it. And of course, in this NGINX controller it is done. So all you need to do, then you need to specify something like this. And of course, here you need to change the namespace. Will be the same, but you need to change the, for example, the name. It will be, I don't know, NGINX ingress -AWX, for example. Namespace will be the same. I mean, the pattern is fine. Ingress NGINX namespace tells everything connected with ingress is in this namespace is defined. And then you need to modify the NodePort actually, because AWX, I don't remember, it is using a different port. I mean 44380 or something else. That's it. Eventually you can specify the port because you want to use a separate port for AWX service. You can do this because you're implementing this here, and even if the default port for AWX, or here even I can change this port in this service, because this service for NGINX Ingress controller is independent from the n8n service. So I don't have to specify the port that is by default the default port for n8n. I can specify any port I want. So then you need to somewhere, you know, need to provide in the documentation that AWX port is this one, the NodePort is this one, and I just define it just because like that, and that's it. And if you want to connect, you need to define in the DNS or NGINX Proxy Manager or somewhere over else in p-hole, I don't know. You need to define this port to be able to connect to it. But if you will define the host name like here, you will have to. You don't have to even specify the port. Yeah, it's good to provide it in the documentation, but I mean the documentation in your company and to your home, just because you are, you know, super duper user and you write everything down. But no, you specify the domain. Thank you very much, and I'm using the domain, and all you have to do the domain points to this port. That's it, and I'm using a different domain for different service. That is. So I hope I explained everything. That how you need to specify files, what you need to specify inside these files, how you are connecting inside this, and why you have 404 error. So there are two things actually to be very careful. One is which domain is configured here, and the second that if you are running host like this one, then HTTP should be before it was with the dash in the beginning, but after that, when you are adding it, you need to remove this dash from here, and you need to specify it this way. I mean roles and then host and dash host and HTTP this way. And actually I have 404 twice, because in the beginning I had two dashes. One was here and the second one was below. And then when I removed it, everything went back to normal state and I was able to access the website. And the second time was when the domain was different domain was defined here, and it was n8n local, and I was trying to connect it with n8n sysadmin.home, because different domain was specified inside this file, inside this ingress file. It wasn't able to connect to. That's it. This is quite simple, but you need to understand how everything is working, and without this knowledge you will not be able to solve your problem. So what else? First of all, it's good to use something like kubectl. I mean, learn it. kubectl logs, kubectl describe, check your ports, check your logs, describe your ports, check everything is connecting properly, and try to solve the problem on your own. And if you have any problem, do not hesitate to ask me, and I will try to figure it out and eventually show you how to solve the problem. I hope you enjoyed this video, so thank you very much. Have a nice day or night. Take care. Bye bye.